Welcome to the Sensitive Mind Show.
Your purpose in life as a sensitive is to experience the deeper parts of the mind, to move beyond fear and to manage your energy, no matter the circumstance. I'm going to show you, as a sensitive, how you can maximize your talents and feel comfortable in your own skin. For show notes and to join the conversation, visit heidisawyer.com/mind. Hi, my name is Heidi Sawyer. I believe in fairness, but because the way the world is structured, good and kind people often have to fight harder for that fairness. I give good and kind people the tools and the perspective to help them achieve fairness in their lives. Stop wishing things were different and start creating that difference. If you are like me and you believe in fairness, you're not wrong in wanting that. You're not wrong in desiring that. You're not broken. You are an intuitive, sensitive person. So, if you haven't already, read this book because it might well change your life. Visit heidisawyer.com/hip because everyone wants to be hip. They want to be a highly intuitive person. Hello there, I have 3 dilemmas for you today. We have 3 interesting partner relationship dilemmas today. So let's have a look at them and see whether they also relate to your own life. So Claire wants to know how to navigate her separation with fairness. And we have Joan, who wants to know how to find her way out of a difficult relationship. And we have, the third one we have is Frances, who wants to know how to interpret her instincts around her current relationships. Okay, so let's get on to the first dilemma for today. And the first one is Claire. Okay, so Claire wants to know how to navigate her separation with fairness. So Claire is a life code 9, and I'm going to place her there. And the other people involved are, we have Terry, who is the ex-husband, and he is a life code 6. Okay, and then we have the daughter, who's the third character that we're going to have a look into, is a life code 3. So I'm just having a little look to see what this pattern is. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic between the 9 and the 6. So we'll have a little look at that in a moment. So let me tell you what the dilemma is. So what's the situation? Hi, I'm separated from my husband and we've no legal separation. Recently, I was pushed to file for divorce as one of my daughters needed proof of separation for a grant. My ex phoned and asked me to not go the legal route. He has no mortgage. I have a mortgage on the family home. To compensate me, his words, he couldn't see himself living with anyone else. He's in a relationship, has a 5-year-old daughter, but they live separately. As a person, I like to be fair. I wouldn't see him out of his house. So what's the problem that the situation creates? I like to be fair. I wouldn't feel right seeing someone out of their house. I'm not quite sure how that would show, but we'll have a look and see how that what comes up as far as that's concerned. So what is the question you want Heidi to answer about the situation? Can we come to an arrangement where we both feel secure? Okay, so what we have initially is we have 2 main people. So we have a life code 9. So we have a life code 9 and a life code 6. So generally, what is their feel? What is the dynamic between a life code 9 and a life code 6? Well, a life code 6 quite often is the centre of things. Okay, they tend to be the centre of things. They've got lots of pathways that move in towards their life code, their number. So they tend to be the centre. They're the centre of things. In a relationship, and with a 9, they will find that often they really enhance that. So that number 6 will really enhance the fact that they are the centre of things. They're the centre of that dynamic, that what they need, what they want is the center of things. And the life code 9s anyway, they reflect the unconscious, and so often they get the blame for things. They get the sharp end of the stick. They are the one who comes off in situations, usually the worst off, because they reflect someone else's unconscious world. And so, therefore, Claire will find herself as that life code 9 trying to be very fair. Okay, so life code 9s, especially with that life code 6, because they would be placing themselves as secondary. Okay, so the life code 9 with that 6 would be placing themselves as secondary to the life code 6, because the life code 6 tends to be often the center of things. And so if there is a blame situation to occur, then the life code 9 will either take the blame or feel that they are blamed. Okay, so we'll have a little look as far as that dynamic is concerned and see how that pans out in this particular situation. So the life code 3, and a life code 3 in relationship to the 6, there is a direct path. There is the 17th path, which is a direct path to the life code 6. So again, no, we'll be looking at it as far as the life code 3 is concerned. The life code 3 tends to be really quite patient. They wait for the right opportunity, but once they've been crossed, they tend never to allow someone back in again. Very, very clear on that, So this relationship with this life code 6, who likes to be the center of things, is in danger, so to speak. What the life code 3 will be keeping quiet. So they'll be keeping quiet. The life code 3 will keep quiet and quiet and quiet and quiet. And certainly life code 6 is in terms of that dynamic, will feel important if they're the one who becomes the center of that conversation, the center of that world, all of those kind of things. And the 3 will become more and more silent. But if the 3 will be testing. Okay, so the 3 will be testing to see what that 6 is going to do. Are they going to be someone who is selfish, or are they going to be someone who is still very much connected? Even though you can see that there is some distance, and certainly in this scenario it feels like there's some distance between the life code 6 and that life code 3. As far as the 9 is concerned with the life code 3, there is no direct path particularly. So between a dynamic between a life code 9 and a life code 3 can quite often be that they can see from each other's perspective. So they can see what's going on from the other person's world. Why? Because they're not directly connected, so to speak. So when someone is very aware, when they're an aware 3 and an aware 9, they'll have their own perspective and they'll be able to see that from someone else's point of view. So especially in a mother-daughter scenario, a 3 and a 9 would either find that they get on very well because they can see each other's perspective, or they have absolutely nothing in common. Okay, so let's have a look and see how this particular situation pans out. So from what I'm looking at, really the main question is, how is the daughter going to fare in this? Because this dilemma, this situation has actually come up because the daughter needs something, okay? And what's quite clear so far is that Terry isn't really fully aware of the fact that actually she needs a solution. She needs a solution in order to be able to get her grant, to be able to see something through. Now, this may be something that relates to your own life, feeling that perhaps someone who should know better feels a little bit selfish to you. Someone who is meant to be the authority feels a little bit selfish in your world. And already before we even start this dynamic, I would say that most likely that's going to show around this Terry character, especially for this life code 3, who's feeling that actually, she needs this, and it's not easy to sort out when it really should be. Okay, and it feels like it's much more to do with her dynamic between herself and her father rather than her dynamic between her and her mother. So let's have a little look as far as this is concerned. So we'll start with Claire. So she's looking at it as immediately, even in her own question, I like to be fair, I wouldn't feel right seeing someone out of their home. Now, she's automatically, even in that question, is assuming that she's doing something wrong by requesting that this separation after a long period of time is actually finalised and solved, especially because their daughter needs it to be solved. And clearly, the ex-partner has moved on, he's moved into another relationship, and he has a daughter by another relationship. So clearly there is an element of moving on. But Claire, as that life code 9, is already still feeling responsible for him, and as though she's doing something wrong in asking for this to be solved and put straight, as though it's her responsibility. It doesn't feel to me at all that Terry sees it as his actual responsibility to solve. So let's have a little look as far as that's concerned. So how do we look? Well, we're looking as far as the archetypes are, which is a really clear and easy way to have a look at something, because the archetypes reflect something in our unconscious world. How do they reflect that in our unconscious world? Well, the words, the characters, the different characters will be familiar in your own mind. It's always something that we recognise. So I'm choosing one, and I've got them upside down, with Claire in mind. So let's have a little look. Oh, okay. So first of all, for Claire, we have the goddess as far as this situation is concerned. So she is seen, so Claire is seen as the authority, or the one who has to solve things, and does so in a very peaceful and gentle way. So everyone does see her as the main character who is able to solve and very much be fair. So Claire has nothing to worry about in terms of her fairness. She's recognised as being extremely fair and decent person. Okay, that would be how that goddess is shown. So let's have a look. It's interesting. So we're having a look as far as Terry is concerned, and we have the alchemist here. So what does the alchemist do? Well, the alchemist turns rubbish into gold. Okay, so I would be saying that we're looking at this kind of situation here as in he's trying to spin this. Okay, he's trying to spin this into something that works for him, as in works for him, that feels like it's a rubbish scenario, into gold, as in he wants it to go very much his own way, his way, where he creates the gold out of what's rubbish. Okay, so interesting. So he, though, wants to be, so we're going to also add to this that he still wants to be this kind of seen as the superhero. So the superhero that solves this, sorts this out, very much going into that 6 energy of being the centre of attention, the one who's absolutely perfect, asking for something completely reasonable in his mind. But really what he's asking is to turn something that's really quite rubbish into gold. So how does the daughter feel about this? What's going on as far as the daughter is concerned? So let's have a little look. Exactly as I thought. And exactly as I thought first up, she actually does feel to be the victim in this. So she feels like the victim, and I'm not surprised, to be honest, because it feels to me that she doesn't feel that her point is heard. And what's happening as far as this Terry character is concerned is he's not addressing the real issue, is that this girl wants to be able to move her life forward, choose her own life path. Obviously she's looking for a grant, she's looking to train or learn something so that she can develop her own life moving forward, which isn't unreasonable. It's perfectly acceptable and justified. She wants to be able to do that, and she qualifies for a grant. So the real question is, how is Terry going to solve this? Because if he doesn't want a separation to be going through certain channels, because he's worried clearly that he seems to and others think that it sees him out of his own home, then how is he going to solve it for his daughter, because she needs that grant? So it's actually rather than Claire's responsibility, because here already we see that she is very decent, very fair, very honest. We've got the goddess here as far as she's concerned. It's not actually her problem. It's actually Terry's to solve, because it's the daughter that needs this. What we're seeing here is that Claire isn't unreasonable in any way, shape or form in what she was worrying about. So the question is, how does she get to this point where the situation is solved, but she's being fair? And this happens a lot for sensitives. So this might be something that actually reflects in your own life, which is you're always the fair one, you're always the decent one, and sometimes sometimes people use that, and they maybe manipulate it. And what we're seeing here is Terry could well be manipulating this situation quite hard in his own favour, knowing that Claire is a very reasonable person. So in actual fact, the solution in this scenario, as far as the life codes are concerned, and what they offer as that solution is that Claire should hand it back to Terry to solve and say, okay, we need to sort this, because our daughter is the one that's suffering here, because she needs that grant. And so, Terry, if you don't want me to take a particular route as far as the separation is concerned, then you need to come up with a solution that actually helps our daughter pay for her education. So in actual fact, Terry, it's up to you to look into the situation to find out how it can be done where he feels his life is fine and it's uninterrupted, but it also supports their daughter, and Claire steps out of having to take responsibility for it. But it will be tricky for Claire, because she's always been responsible and always been very responsible within this relationship dynamic. So before we go into the next dilemma, we have an important message from our sponsor, i.e. me. So I'll just clear the board. If you like the archetypes and the life codes, then you're going to love receiving my 2 monthly free predictions. The first is a group reading up the conscious line using the archetypes as your guide for the month ahead as an intuitive sensitive person. And the second is a prediction specific to your own individual life code, your own life code number, and you can see examples of this and sign up to have these 2 free predictions sent to your inbox every month by visiting heidisawyer.com/mind. Okay, so now we're moving in to the dilemma number 2. So what do we have here? So we have Joan, who is a life code 8, and she wants to know how to find her way out of her current narcissistic relationship experience to a more balanced and healthy situation. So Joan is feeling that she's this character because she's feeling that she has no say, nothing. She has no say in things, and finding that very difficult. So we're going to put Joan there as the life code 8. Okay, and so the other characters involved here, we have Fred, who is a life code 5, which is the ex-partner. So we have Fred as the ex-partner. He's a life code 5. And we have a mother Okay, so we have the mother, who is also, she's a life code 7. We have her jumping up and down, which we'll discover in a moment why she's jumping up and down in a bit of a rage. Okay, so generally, just before we go into the dilemma, what happens between life code 8 and life code 5? Now this is quite a clash of the titans. So a life code 8 and a life code 5 tends to be, as far as a relationship is concerned, this kind of clash of energies, which is an unaware life code 5 will try and hard to torment a life code 8. But life code 8s are more immovable than other life codes. So they step up, they're kind of, unaware life code 5 might step up their sort of terror of directed towards a life code 8, because the life code 8 is quite stoical, will stay, whereas other life codes would disappear under the pressure of a life code 5 who's unaware and on the rampage sooner. Okay, so they would disappear sooner. So the dynamic between a 5 and an 8, where it clashes, is that the 8 is quite stoical. They'll stick to something, and that 5 will get more and more vicious in a ways and means to try and disrupt that 8 because it's not working. And so they get more frustrated as far as that's concerned in terms of an unaware 5. An unaware 5, anyway, in relationships can be quite spiky. Can be, because they're the warrior energy, they're the will, the direct will, so it can be quite spiky, it can be quite vicious at times, but it's short bursts of it, and they kind of run out of steam, and then it's another short burst, and they run out of steam, and then it's another short burst. So it's not sustained. If this dynamic was the other way round, where the very difficult person was the life code 8, and Joan was the life code 5, I would be saying that it would be harder, because a difficult life code 8, a really difficult life code 8, would be relentless. It would be going on and on and on and on. Whereas that life code 5, there's breaks in it. Okay, even though it doesn't necessarily feel like there are breaks in it when they badly behaved, when life code 5 is badly behaved, but there are, and it's those little gaps that you then recover and have your opportunity to change and do something as far as that 5 is concerned. Because the 5 energy, what is their main lesson in life? What is their main thing to learn? Well, it's about their will, because they're a life code 5, but it's also a lot to do with their self-esteem. So badly behaved life code 5s has got everything to do with the fact that their self-esteem is very low, but they will do anything to hide it. They'll do whatever they possibly can to make sure that that's unseen, that's not brought to light. But a life code 8 would say, well, why don't you address that? Why don't you see that? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And the life code 5 would say, well, I don't want to go into there, so I'm going to stick pins in it and make it hard, make it uncomfortable. How does the life code 7 fit into this? Well, life code 5s and 7s either feed off each other. So they'll either feed off each other, unaware, I'm talking about unaware ones. They'll either feed off each other in terms of one will fuel the other. And then 7s become really quite dramatic around a 5 if they're feeding each other. If they're not feeding each other, then the 5 energy is it's very easy for a 5 to terrorize a 7. Okay, because 7 is run by their emotions, and the 5 will utilize that in short bursts. Okay, so it's tougher for a 5 to terrorize a life code 8. It's tougher for them to be able to do that. So but a 7 will quite often fuel that. Now, what's the pathway straight across here between a 7 and an 8? Well, we have this whole dynamic that is the drama triangle. So we have the persecutor, we have the rescuer, and we have the victim. So we have the persecutor always in the 8 energy, we have the rescuer always in the 7 energy, and we have the victim in the 110 if it's a drama. So we've got a direct relationship between that life code 8 situation here and that life code 7 over here, so between the persecutor and the rescuer. So I suspect that this life code 7 is going to look at the life code 8 and say, it's all your fault. It's all your fault. You're the one in the wrong. And they will then project on to that life code 8 that they are the persecutor. And all that the life code 7 wants to do is make it all fine and dandy. But actually, they keep igniting it, they keep fueling it, they keep lighting the fireworks. So let's have a look and see how that pans out in this particular situation. So what do we have? We have, what's the situation? My abusive narcissist X won't leave. I don't have the money to go. Physically or emotionally, I don't feel that I have any real support. My mama helps sometimes, but she puts me down all the time and comments that I don't do enough. I'm trying to open up new avenues of work for myself, but don't seem to get the energy to get moving. Anytime I have tried to move forward, nothing has ever worked out. Joy and love elude me in life, and I don't feel I can take any more disappointment. What's the problem the situation creates? My health is starting to deteriorate. I want to make healthier choices. I also feel that I need to write and paint, etc. to move forward. But every time I have built up the energy to move forward in a different direction, his horrible behaviour, lack of friends, constant worry about money, etc. brings me down. I also don't feel guided, and this is very distressing. I feel guilty for my 2 daughters. So what is the question you want Heidi to answer about the above? I have lost hope and joy, support or love, and I don't feel I'll ever be part of it. Any guidance will be appreciated. Okay, so what we have here is Joan's situation where she's feeling really very upset about this. So she wants to feel some joy back in her life. She wants to find an area of life where it's supportive and loving relationships in her life, and right now she's finding that very difficult because everything is being fueled in different directions. Okay, so, and he won't leave. So Fred won't leave. So even though he's an ex, he won't leave. And part of that will be, so we'll put a little shark there as well. He'll be doing the whole, oh, aren't I so nice, to everyone on the outside, but inside he wants to create a punishment. And the mother here will be fueling that. So I suspect that when we have a look at this, that Joan's mother also has something, an energy that's really quite similar to this Fred character. Because quite often, and this can happen in your life as well, is that some of the relationships that we find ourselves around, especially difficult ones, if we've had a parental experience where it's also been, quite difficult with them, they tend to sort of weirdly like the conflict that you've got between partnership, and they like to fuel it, and they like to say, to enhance how rubbish you are and how useless you are at getting particular outcomes. And it's really desperately unkind, especially if that's been going on for a long period of time. But because it's been our norm, because it's been the norm, and you haven't known anything any different, it's then hard to actually notice when someone's behaviour is really out of order. And so, especially as a sensitive individual, because you're always trying to make it right, you're trying to please everyone, and I suspect that this is what's going on for Joan, is that she's been trying to please in various different directions, including some kind of approval, something from her mother. Something from her mother, because she's trying to solve this situation with this difficult person who takes great pleasure in feeling that Joan is under pressure and feeling punished. So how does she lift herself up out of feeling that everything is completely punishing? And so what's happening is her psyche will be taking herself back to the child who couldn't really do anything, had no option in life. And the child part in her subconscious will be saying to her, well, we can't do anything. We're stuck. We're powerless to change anything. We're powerless to do anything differently, because as a young child you would have been, you'd have to do exactly what was asked of you, otherwise you didn't have a roof over your head. And this is the same dynamic that Joan's energy, I suspect, is feeling now, is that it's back into that child where she feels powerless to have any say over situations. And that happens in narcissistic relationships. It happens a lot because you then start to feel that you have no choices of your own, and also that you're totally incapable because that's what you've been told. So Joan will have had this from Fred, and she would also have had it from her own mother. So let's have a look and see what the real question is. Okay, and I think what the real question is how does Joan begin to allow herself something in her life where she can begin to feel like she's got some power back, that she's got some of her own power back. And I think part of that is it's actually going to be about taking the mother out of the picture, I suspect. So let's have a little look, rather than it's actually to do with Fred, because I think if the mother energy, where she doesn't feel mothered, she doesn't feel nurtured, is not there as an influence, she'll have more strength to deal with Fred, I suspect, because she's stoical, she's strong, she's a life code 8, again up against the life code 5, and actually she's got more strength there than she currently can see. And the 5 has bursts of, whereas this mother here is fueling the whole lot with this criticizing and critical behavior. Okay, so let's have a little look as to how that pans out. So let's have a look at how Joan, so her actual question is, I've lost hope in life, support or love will ever be, and support or love will only ever be part of it. Any guidance will be appreciated. So let's have a look at Joan and how she can feel lighter about her own world. Okay, so let's have a little look. Okay, interesting. We've got the lover. Okay, so we've got the lover. Let's come up. So I'm going to put that into there and how she can feel light. And so it's about, for Joan already, to what I can see, just by this one archetype that's coming up, is it's about finding what is good about her, and rather than take it from perception of cruel people, is to actually take it from her own perception. So her own perception as to what is the possibility of decency and kindness, and what does that look like, but rather than trying to fulfill it from other people, is to actually ask herself, and what does that look like as far as her own world is concerned. Now let's have a look as far as the mother is concerned. Okay, what is the mother up to? Okay, so we've got the priest here. So what is the mother up to? She's up to isolating Joan, unfortunately. She feels isolated herself. The mother feels isolated, and she thinks, well, I'm going to pull Joan into this situation with me. I'm going to pull Joan into feeling lonely and isolated with me. And that quite often is what abusive characters often do in our lives, which is just because they don't feel good inside, they want to drag you into that place too. As a sensitive individual, you quite easily get dragged because you think somehow or another that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to make them feel better, especially when it's someone that is meant to love you and love you the most. So you do that. You compromise your whole self in order to please another person who can never be pleased. And this person here, clearly the mother, can't be pleased because what she's doing, what this shows, the priest here shows that she's lonely, but she's also the authority. The priest energy is also an authority, but it's a lone authority. So she's lonely, but she still says, I'm your mother, therefore I not necessarily own you, but you are I brought you into this world, so you should be grateful. It's that kind of energy. And actually, Joan doesn't need to be grateful for bad behaviour. And so what's happening right now is she's being pulled into being lonely. Okay, because the mother is that, and she wants someone to join her in her own misery, pretty much. Now let's see what Fred is up to. Well, we've got the mystic here for him. So what he's doing is he's reading whatever the situation is at any one time and using it and utilising it. And so he's being quite perceptive about this whole dynamic here. I'd say this is much more to do with the mother-daughter dynamic than actually Fred. He's just feeding and utilising and quite often narcissistic characters they appear to be quite intuitive. And they appear to be quite intuitive because they are using somebody's Achilles heel, the area in their life that feels like a weakness. So what he's using is that Joan doesn't feel loved from this direction, from her own mother, and so he's then using that. It's kind of going, let's just pull that apart because I'm also a sharky character, but I'll present myself as all nice and innocent, and then I come out with the sharky bit. So how does Joan solve this situation? How does she solve this? Is there an obvious route? Well, I can say from what is presented here, and partly from my own experience, I can feel very strongly for Joan's situation, and anyone else who, if you're watching this and you think, well, I actually feel that at times. I feel for Joan because I feel that at times. Joan is a decent person. She's a nice person. She's decent. She doesn't deserve to be treated in this way. She doesn't deserve this unkindness in her life. And I'm going to get emotional because this level of unkindness, and I can feel that as far as she's concerned, isn't acceptable. And that she feels that she is this awful person and she's not. She's not this terrible person. Because it's coming in two different directions from the two people in her life that should have been there to love her. It's not unreasonable to ask. So, how does she solve this? She needs to find her own love. Her own lover. So we've got here, her own lover from inside. And the only way she's going to be able to do that is to take out the spikiest part first. And that is to take this out of the picture straight away, so that she can actually feel what her own feelings are, rather than what this angry woman, in terms of her mother, keeps trying to fire back at her. because Joan doesn't know what she actually feels, I suspect. Doesn't know who she is, she doesn't know what she feels. And when she can start to actually feel that sensation, and actually her feelings become her own superhero, she will have amazing strength to deal with Fred, because he's secondary to this. So let's have a little look to see that if she allowed herself, and by moving this mother energy out, and how do you do that? How do you do that when this person is meant to be the closest person to you? You say no. You say no, it stops. There's no point in arguing with someone in a narcissistic rage. No point in arguing with them, because they love that. They love the opportunity for that to be fed. And then they twist it all up and throw it back at you, and you think, oh, I must be the mad one. There's no point in arguing. But what you can do is say, no, that stops. And just keep saying, no, that stops. No, that stops. And if you can't say it through your own voice, you're saying it inside, no, that stops. So you're no longer engaging with that. So if Joan was able to do that, let's have a look to see how that would change or maybe flourish for her within. Interesting. What we've got is the Virgin. So what comes out is the Virgin. So she's able to do that. She can start completely afresh. So this whole thing would then be something that would start completely afresh. She'd start to have her own sense of self. And I suspect, although I remember reading in here that she needs to write and paint, what she's doing in wanting to write and paint is actually communicate with her own feelings, to start to understand what those are. And when she can do that and feel her own strength, she'll be able to deal with Fred very easily. The problem is the mother. So before we go on to the next dilemma, I have another important message from our sponsor, i.e. me. I'll be back in a moment once I've cleared the board. If you like live events like this, then you are going to love joining me every month for my monthly live webinar, where we dive deep into a single topic, such as creating a strong mind and body balance, or developing your soul connection, or things like overcoming codependence, or how to master the self, to name but a few. But if you want to be notified of when these are available, be sure to register your email address here, which is heidisawyer.com/webinar. And I will send you an invitation to each event. Okay, so now we have dilemma number 3. And this is Francis, who is a life code 11, so it's a 211. So we'll put Francis there. And the other characters involved are Mum, who's a life code 110. And let's put Mum there for a moment. And then we have Sister, who's a life code 4. Put them there. Okay, so we'll put them there as this particular dynamic. So how does a 211 and a 4 interact generally? Okay, especially as this kind of, well, we've got sister dynamic going on here. So what's the general sort of feel of those relationships? Well, the 4 is all about love. Okay, so a unaware 4 can be, it's all about me. I want everything to be about me. I want to be about the centre of attention. I want to be the one who's loved. And an unaware 211 can find themselves pulling themselves in dozens of different directions and feeling like they are the one who's very perceptive about things, because 211s are the most perceptive of all of the life codes as a 211. But they can be extremely perceptive, but also at the same time feel that they need to be pulled in many different directions and that everything is a challenge and their fault. Why? Because they work this pathway, which is the 13th path between the whole self and, well, no, it's actually between Darth and the soul. So everything, well, it goes up here and through. So what does that mean? It means that the 13th path is everything to do with challenge, that things are difficult, that they have to push against something before it becomes easy, all of that. So as a 211 with a 4, it'd be feeling that they have to push against something to be heard, to be seen, because the life code 4 will be, I am the big star of the show. When a life code 4 is aware, it's a whole different picture, because an aware life code 4 is calm and centered and kind and steady, and sees other people, as in sees them, not, oh, hello, I'm around for dinner. It's they see them, they're aware of what their needs are, all of that kind of stuff. 110s, what's the dynamic between a 110 and a 4, for instance? A 110 very much is in the physical world. He's very much about their just immediate awareness. Will then look at that life code 4 and go, oh, it's all about them. Oh, wow. And if they feel that it is all about them, they'll go, wow, let's connect with that. But a life code 10 and a life code 211 can feel very separated from each other. Okay, that energy can feel very separated because they're at different ends of levels of looking at things or the perception of things. But if you have an aware life code 110, then the 211 and the 110 can feel very connected. Okay, they can feel very connected to each other, because and they can also feel very close because they've then both got this high level of deeper awareness or way of looking at something. But if they're not, then that 211 will feel like the life code 110 doesn't care. Okay, so let's have a little look as to what this dilemma is. So what's the situation? Last year my mum and I moved closer to my sister and her family in hope and promises that we could all see each other more than once a year. However, I have hardly seen them and it feels like I always have to apologise for being myself. The undercurrent of interacting with my sister is that I have to change in order for them to accept me as I'm made to feel beneath them. I feel like I have made the wrong decision to move here and I don't feel like I'm ever included. So what's the problem the situation creates? It is making me more depressed because most of the time they act like I do not exist. When my sister promised we would all see each other every month at least, I'm angry and feel cast out and never approved of, and I want to stop seeking that approval or acceptance so I can see clearly what I need for me. I think maybe she has never accepted me and it hurts not knowing. Okay, so what's the question that she wants me to answer? Does my sister want me to be involved with her family? If not, how do I let go and do what is best for myself? Okay, so let's have a little look. Let's see what the sister is up to. Okay, so I'm just going to shuffle these around a bit. Let's see what the sister is up to. I suspect very much so she's into this whole, I need to be loved, I want to be the centre of attention, and if I've got a sibling, then I can't possibly have my sibling as the centre of anything. So I suspect that this is really about the mother and attention towards her own towards her daughters. Okay, and this unaware 4 sister feels that she's due that attention. So, oh yes, here we go. See what we've got. We've got God. So it's amazing how these things come out. I don't. These are real stories. These are real people's lives, very much so. They're not. If you think, oh, does Heidi make these up? No, I don't make them up. I couldn't make them up even if I tried. Or does Heidi pick out cards that are relevant to what she's just said? no, I do all this live for you. I do this live, proving this to you completely live. I'm not structuring this in advance. So you're feeling exactly what this is straight off, what it is. I'm as surprised as you are as to what the possibilities are. I'm just doing what I feel would be the scenarios based on the different life codes. And then we're exploring together as to how that matches. So I'm as amazed often as you are. This couldn't be more so than this 4, as in the love, I need to be loved, glorifying themselves. They think they're God. That I am the center of the universe and the attention, and you will do what I want. So towards Frances, that's her attitude. You will do what I want, and if I say that you are going to be less than, then that's what you're going to be. Because I am, just bear with me a second. Bear with me. Let's find the character. Bear with me. The princess. I am the princess. And so the princess has whatever she wants. So this is a classic. It's a kind of Cinderella story. The whole feel of this is the Cinderella story. It's Frances' Cinderella. She's the hero waiting in waiting, and can't see her own strength, can't see her own skills, can't see her own ability, because she's completely overshadowed by this ta-da, I'm the princess sister who thinks she's God. And I suspect when we go on to the mother, it's being fed by the mother. Okay, so let's have a look. Should we look at Frances next, or should we have a look at the mum? I think we're going to have a look at the mum. Okay, so we'll see what the mum is up to. Let's see what she's up to. What she is up to as far as this is concerned. So, I suspect, we've got the judge. So I suspect what we had in early life is between Frances and her sister was a level of sibling rivalry, which was attention from the mother, who was going to get the attention, when was the attention going to be had. And I suspect that the mother kind of enjoyed, I know it sounds a bit odd, but this well, it doesn't sound odd, because it may even relate to your own life, which is that you can feel, but you can't quite admit, that maybe that there was a division in siblings that was fed, or it wasn't corrected. So yes, siblings fight, they disagree, they don't get on sometimes, but surely a parent's role is to minimize that division and to encourage cooperation and working together and doing things together from an early foundation experience, not to kind of feed the different directions and the separation. It feels to me that this was very much fed, that the judge suggests that this was very much fed as a scenario. So let's have a look and see how Frances can resolve this, because it's certainly not about going to the princess. She's Cinderella, after all. This is very much a Cinderella thing. So how can she find her own, not her own external rescuer, as in the prince who comes to rescue, as in the fairy story, but her own inner rescuer, so that she starts to make decisions that are for her own life, rather than seeking approval from the princess, who's never going to give it because she's enjoying it too much. She's enjoying making her sister this lower being. Why? Because at some level or another, because Life Code 4s are all about love, she doesn't feel loved enough. So she has to overcompensate that. But rather than admit it in her own inner world, it's easier to make her sister a lesser being. And as a 211, Frances will be taking that on because she sees it as her challenge in life, her thing in life that she has to do. But in actual fact, it's not, because 211s are also exceptionally strong. And it's about Frances finding her own strength. So let's have a look at how Frances can find her own strength, what it is she needs to do. Okay, so what we have here is the Advocate. Okay? And this is about, what does she need to do? She needs to put her own self-compassion into action. Okay? So how do you do that? How do you put your own self-compassion into action? If you look at it along the lines of, let's say, you have a shorter period on this earth, okay? Shorter period of time on this earth. What are your current regrets? What are the things that you haven't yet done, you haven't yet included in your life? What are you waiting to change that hasn't changed? And what Frances needs to do is notice that this sister is not going to change. The mother kind of enjoys it at some level or another. So in actual fact, Frances needs to find her own inner compassion and start planning her life where she wants to be, where she wants to move to, where she wants to engage with people, where she wants to expand her horizons, where she wants the types of social things she wants to do, the clubs, the activities that she wants to join. She's never had or allowed in her life because she's been seeking this approval from two people who just feed this whole stuff of their own selves. If the sister has got any hope in getting rid of the whole princess thing, it will be in Frances finding her own life. So let's have just one more as far as Frances is concerned to help her. Yeah, here we go. Gosh, again, couldn't do this if I tried. We've got the hero stroke heroine. So this absolutely enhances. It's about Frances finding her own inner hero. So it's the story. It's Cinderella, but rather than looking externally for that saving thing, she has that hero within, but she needs to find her own self-compassion to activate that, and then she will find completely and utterly her own path moving forward. So that's the end of this episode of the Sensitive Mind Show. If you've enjoyed it and found it helpful, do share it with your friends, and be sure to join me next week, where I look forward to giving you an alternative perspective on your relationship dilemmas. Bye for now, and let me leave you with this. For more great free content designed to support your purchase of my book, Highly Intuitive People, 7 Right Brain Traits to Change the Lives of Intuitive Sensitive People, please visit finallyfeelunderstood.com. There you can subscribe and download for free the meditations specific to today's episode. If you have already read the book, then it's time for you to receive exclusive access and support from me and your fellow intuitive sensitives as we go deeper together along this proven 7-step path by joining us in my monthly membership program called Heidi Circle. There you can ask me anything in a safe and private environment, and I will answer you live. Join us today by visiting healmyinnerworld.com.